Whoa! Wow, that was the best. That might have been. That might have been the best intro yet. All right, first the sponsors. Head over. Stop pushing things. That was crazy. So that was the best intro yet, though, with the horns at the end. If we could duplicate that every time, that's money. Real quick, I want to thank the sponsors. Head over to www.johnbartoloshow.com. I want to first thank Gallo Technologies for all the walls, Rhino Metals for all the tables, of course, Blackwater Ammunition, Volquartsen Firearms, Right On Optics, Galco Leather Holsters, and Pulsar. Thermal and IR is coming down in price, guys. Go check out Pulsar. All the links are down below for all the sponsors. Please go click them. Go check them out. Awesome companies. We're going to give a special thanks. I just got a demo and an education to the XBands today. We'll have that link down below. We have the creator, the founder, the CEO, the president, the king of kings, Ken Schmidt from XBands. What's going on?
Hey, how's it going, John?
How are you?
Good.
Pull that a little closer to you. You can move it. It moves. Like move the whole arm.
Up, down, left, right.
Yeah, up, down, left. Yeah, just talk into it. Kind of like this. So, listen, we've been trying to put this together forever.
It has been well over a year that we've been talking, trying to get out here. So I'm glad we finally made it happen and I got out here.
Now listen, let's get into this. You were telling me your story offline.
Yep.
You were on carriers. You're a veteran. You were on carriers. You were in the Navy. And that never gets old. Maybe for you, but
yeah,
you were in the Navy, and that's when you started this.
Yeah. So basically, when I was 18, I didn't really want to know what I wanted to do with my life. So college, kind of really wasn't an option because I didn't really want to go to college and not learn anything, or not have
like everyone else.
Plan. Yeah, change your major 5 times. So I had a couple other friends that joined the Navy out of high school, and they thought it was a pretty good idea. So I'm like, all right, I'll do that for a little bit until I figure out what I want to do with my life. I still don't know what I want to do with my life, but I'm doing XBands now, so that's working. But yeah, I joined when I was 18, and then travel all over the world. Been on 2 different carriers, the Kitty Hawk and the Lincoln, and then been stationed with Marine squadrons, Navy squadrons, and all over the world for just under 12 years.
And then you discover your knack for bands.
Yeah, so basically resistance band, why I really like getting into it is because when you're in the military and you're traveling all over the world, it's really hard to pack dumbbells and kettlebells, and you can't really pack racks and all that stuff on carriers. So basically we just bring bands with us wherever we went to. And then I was always the fitness instructor too for the command. So I'm not going to carry 200 dumbbells out to a field somewhere and work out the Navy or Marine. So basically just grab a bag full of bands and go out there. So I really like working out bands because it's real easy to do, and you actually get a really good workout with them. But there was never really any accessories to go with them. So that's one of the biggest things that I started to do was kind of make and design different accessories to go with them, like different ankle straps, thigh straps, belts, tree attachments, door attachments, steel bars, and everything that can kind of attach to them. So you can basically get more of a workout out of it without carrying big, heavy equipment around.
The best part of the story is you were like, the first time you turned it around, you were like, yeah, I'll buy a motorcycle helmet or something, I just make a score. But you kind of got the business bug and kept flipping it and kept putting the money back in. And at what point were you like, I have something, I know I can make some money doing this?
It was probably after about year 4 being in the business. So yeah, so I originally got into it. I was using bands all the time. People kept asking me where I get them from. I'm like, I don't know, Big 5 or something like that. Sports Authority. They're like, you should just go into business selling them. I was like, meh, I'll buy a couple, flip them, buy a new motorcycle helmet or something.
That's the best part of the story. And you get the bug, you get the business bug. Yep. And you start realizing I can make a buck doing this, but it's a long journey, and what most people don't realize is there's a difference between making money and making a living.
Right.
So you start making money, but you're not making a living yet. It takes years to build a brand and to make a living. You started it literally from the carrier deck. So it took you, from the math I did in my head when you were telling the story, at least 5-6 years before you're like, okay, I'm somewhere.
Yeah, so I started when I was still active duty. I had still 2 years left on my contract. So it was just kind of like a side project, playing around, flip a couple bands here and there. But as you get into business, you quickly realize the expenses and everything that goes behind it is just astronomical. And it's you can't go part way into a business. You have to go all in or basically just not do it at all because there's
Right.
no point to it. So I made the kind of decision to go all in. But even that, like, it takes a long time for you to grow your company. So you take the money, you flip it. So I was always still in the Navy or doing side jobs because XBands wasn't paying for a long time.
Right.
But eventually it'll pay off as long as you stick with it and you work hard. But another thing, too, is I didn't really know how to run a business. Like,
Right.
my family grew up, like, didn't own businesses. Like, they worked for the mills or, in the bank. So I didn't really know anything. I just learned it off of YouTube or, I don't know, figure it out as you go. I mean,
And you
that's the biggest
fail
thing.
10 times along the way. It's like there's
A
like
few more than 10 times.
at least 10. But you're in the best position to give a veteran some information, in my opinion, or to give them advice because you started while you were in.
Yeah.
And that's one of the more intriguing things of your story is while you're in and you're getting that paycheck, however shitty it may be, it still kind of keeps, the fuel in the tank, so to speak, the money in the tank. So you were able to kind of like chopping a tree down, just kind of figure it out. Like you said, figure it out, ask for advice, figure it out. And nothing happens overnight. It takes an enormous amount of time. But what 3 pieces of advice would you give to the veteran sitting in a cot right now trying to figure it out?
So I guess the biggest thing is you just got to do it. Like, you never know the answers are. It's like the biggest thing now, even being in business almost 10 years, is I'm still constantly finding new companies or updating the website or doing this and that. Like, everything is trial and error.
Right.
I mean, unless you try to maybe go to college and they'll teach you some stuff like this, but always just go into it, buy some products, test it, figure it out, sell it, get some input from the customers, change it up, sell it, get some more input, change it up, sell it. And with the technology changing like rapidly over the last couple of years, like, just be constantly on alert, listen to different podcasts, get out there, listen to all these other people that are in business and whatnot that are doing what you want to do. Listen to what they're doing, watch their stories on Instagram, go on their website, go to these big 10X conferences, and just listen to people and see what they're doing.
The thing, this college doesn't prepare you for
No,
is
college teaches
the
like 20 years ago.
yeah,
what
it
happened.
doesn't prepare you for the failure, most importantly.
Yeah.
Like how to deal with the failure. Like a lot of people hit a roadblock in anything they're doing, lifting weights, anything. I'm sore. I don't want to get up the next. You know what I'm saying? They hit like that little speed bump and they quit, or they don't want to keep going forward. They don't realize that if you put in 8 hours and there's a little setback, you got to put in 10 the next day, 20. I still find myself waking up at 4 or 5 in the morning. Like, I'm known for that, 4 or 5 in the morning, because I need that extra 2 or 3 hours on somebody because I'm not good enough to sleep in till 10 or 11.
Yep.
I'm just not good enough.
And that's what's good too about being in the veteran community is we were taught, like, you don't ever give up. Like, the mission is out there. You got to do the mission. It doesn't matter if it takes you 4 hours or like 40 days. Like, you can't stop till it's done.
Right.
So basically, if you bring that mentality that you learned in the military to where it's like you can't give up, otherwise the mission's failure and people can die. Same thing when you go into business. Like, you can't give up. Like, you're gonna hit roadblocks. You might get sued. You might get lose a ton of money on investments or get bad product in. But you just got to keep going. Take that hit on the chin, take that that kick to the nuts, and just keep going forward. You just got to push forward, push forward, push forward.
Yeah, and you were talking about it. It's a little bit of a transition. Like, when you're in business in the fitness industry, we go through this in the gun industry, as you know. When you're in business in the fitness industry, it's different. It's like people think, when you're in the fitness industry, like, you have all this time, like, you just work out, you live this life where it's like, doves carry you from the bed to the gym and that's all you do. It's not like that. Like, people all the time think I have all this time. Like, I spend my day on a range and I'm just chilling and like, it doesn't work that way.
No.
And that's
those 30-second reels you see on
right,
Instagram.
the little snippets. But explain to everybody, help them understand what you have to give up to get to a level where you have a sustainable business and a sustainable model. What you feel you've had to give up and what goes into that, because I don't think people realize the sacrifice you have to make, the time, the effort, the energy, because a lot of people question themselves. Am I on the right path?
Right. Yeah, you never know if you're on the right path or not. You just kind of keep going forward and hopefully it turns out. But it's definitely just all time. Like, you're working 12, 14, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. And like, I don't really have friends anymore. Like, I have friends that we text back and forth. And there's other people we text back and forth. But like, I haven't gone out to like a bar or gone now COVID happens or whatever. But like, even before that, like I don't hang out with anybody. I'm married. I got a 7-year-old. Like I just work all day, work all night. I'll work normally till like 8 o'clock at night. Even when I come home, I'm like trying to do research on something or marketing or this and that. So it's just.
But I think your friendships evolve. I think what happens is when you are successful, and I don't want to say, I'm not equating money to success or anything like that, but when you're successful, your friends are always there. They're always a text away. People are always there. We know, like I know that you're busy, you know that I'm busy, but if you have to reach out, you're like, hey, what the fuck's going on? You know, what's new? Let's catch up. And we might talk once every 3 months to 4 months is fair to say, you know, hey, what's good? What's cracking? Merry Christmas, whatever. You know, how's things? I don't need a whole debrief on your life. I know you're the type of guy that's doing 15-hour days, 16-hour days. You're cranking, you're motoring.
Yep.
It's the same thing, and Rob Bailey's a good example of that too. Like, you know Rob's working, but if you need him, you can always, you know, shoot a message or whatever. Jay Cutler's the same. A lot of people in our spheres are the same way. They're always doing stuff. Stuff's going on. It doesn't mean we're not available. It doesn't mean we're not your friend. Yeah, we might not be the first person you call to get bailed out of jail. We're not in that type of circle, but everybody's close. And I think that's a fear, too, that people have. Like, I'm going to not have my friends, my regular dinner party. But you don't really want that anyway because you complain when you have that shit.
Yeah, basically just most of my friends now, the people I talk to are fellow business owners.
Yeah.
So I'll get on a call and be like, hey, like,
what do you think of this?
Yeah, what does this work and what are you using for this? I was talking too about my wife and the people we work with about the next step, because I feel like I'm almost at a platform now in my company, and the way the world is going is evolving so fast that in order to take the next step up in my company and grow it more, I need to either travel to different companies and be like, hey, just let me take you to lunch. Like, let me see your whole process and what you're doing. Everything down from like what bank do you use, like what website do you use, your whole production company, and then learn that way. And I'm like, hey, all right, this is what we're using. We're using Shopify, ShipStation, these people, blah, blah, blah. Who's your credit card processing company? You know, just talk back and forth, because there's so much out there now compared to what it was years ago that, you know, just these little things can help out in the long run. You know, finding a good marketing company or finding even a credit card processing. We paid tens of thousands of dollars in credit card fees. Like, so even little things like that, just talking to different, you know, CEOs about what they're doing, what you're doing.
That was one of the reasons behind the podcast, was just to have an excuse to have people in to pump them for information.
Nice.
So I could surround, you know, so media was evolving, and I had theories, as you know, and I was always very adamant of things. I would try things in media, and you kind of know this from watching me, but I was like, what media element can you create that you can get a high yield from in a short period of time? We were talking about this before. I can get a high yield from a short period of time and crank out content, because to me, content's the commodity, right? So if you're feeding the content engine and you're pumping clips and you're pumping, you know, video, you're pumping everything in there, audio, all the different things, you have the commodity. That's the cash. That's the trade. That's my tradable thing. It's like anything else. If you don't have the inventory, you can't sell what you don't have.
Yep.
But if you're cranking out endless amounts of content, like, I'm not reliant on content for anybody. I could sit here, throw a switch on, and create all the content in the world, you know? But when I have a guest in and I'm able to get information from them and have them put information, it starts to become this win-win kumbaya thing. Yep. But as a business owner, anytime you're in business, you want to always be leveling up, talking to the people that are where you want to be.
Yep.
And having conversations and having dinner with the people that are where you want to be. And if it costs you $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 to fly somewhere, to spend 2 nights, to do something, that's where you're doing your fact finding, your information gathering, because, you know, you don't want to step over pennies. You know, you don't want to step over 20s to make pennies. You don't want to make those mistakes, whether it's in processing and everything else. And you could find different ways of doing, okay, I could do this. I can make this change. I can make that change. And usually you find it's a common thing. Can you find your circle getting smaller, and you find your processes getting tighter, to the point where all of a sudden you find yourself with time to start another business or do something else, because you're like, wow, I've dialed it into the point where I don't even have to touch it. And that's the ideal. That's the best place to be.
Yeah, that's always the ending goal when you're, you know, CEO of a company, is get everything finely tuned and running to where you don't have to be there 12, 14 hours a day running it. You can either put somebody in place that can do that for that you can trust, and then you basically go out and start something else or do a side project and grow that one and grow that one. I mean, that's what what most of the rich CEOs or rich people do is they build a company, they sell it, they build another company, sell it. So once you get the roadmap down to building a company and get all those, you have those connections put in place, it's easier to build a second and a third company than it is the first. You've already made all the errors and costly mistakes, and now you can just keep building and build different relationships with different people and start different side projects.
Now, you're one of the smarter guys I know in media, and this is where it gets interesting.
Oh.
No, it's true. Because you figured out great ways to put your product out there and to work with organic media. Do you find, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, all these different things, we've seen it in the fitness industry, the kind of, I don't want to say the fall of the competitor and the rise of the influencer, but how do you figure out like this is best for my brand? This person makes sense. What if like somebody comes up to you at a show and says, I want to rep your product? Like how do you navigate those waters?
Yeah, we get this constantly, every day, multiple times a day. We get messages from people like wanting to be sponsored or this and that.
Right.
Like you said, it's completely changed over the years, over the last 20 years with, social media growing to where like before it was all competitors and Mr. Olympias, and basically you would go to a show to see them, and now it's all social media, marketing, to where now our biggest people that, sell the most and is the biggest rep for our company is like, isn't the pro athletes. It's the stay-at-home moms, somebody that somebody can relate to, because not everybody's a pro level athlete. Like it's like I don't know, 0.2% of the world.
If that, yeah.
Now. So like people can't really relate to themselves to like an Ashley who's like a multiple, Miss Olympia type deal. Like you're like, yeah, she's super fit. I can never do those workouts, but I can, relate to this person who's a stay-at-home mom. Her kids are running around in the background, and they can still get this workout in. So those type of people now, those social media influencers that aren't necessarily Miss Olympia, but they're just like fit moms at home, do way better for us than competitors and whatnot. So we get messages all the time. They're like, oh, I'm a bikini competitor, this or that. I took like 5th place and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no one knows. No one really cares. Like,
right.
That's good. I mean, you put the effort in, the time, you know how to work out, but let's see your videos. Like, are they good, clear videos that we can use in our marketing and put them up on our pages and stuff?
Yeah, that's the content becomes the tradable commodity. It's how do you create content? That's what I'm always looking at. It's like, and now today, because of how it's evolved, like we have Facebook, which has become a little bit more of like a mid-form thing to slightly long form. And then we have, Instagram, we have all these different things. You're sifting through and trying to find who speaks to what platform the best, what speaks to what platform the best. And part of the struggle, and sometimes the struggle we all go through, is we think we can create one piece of content and put it on everything. And you can't. It doesn't work that way. So it's trying to sort through and figure out where the puzzle pieces fit. And like you said, it's not that finishing 5th or 1st or 2nd is certainly not a bad thing, but they become like checking a box. Like, it's okay, you did that, that's great, we like that, but how good is your content? Is it clear? How do you articulate yourself? Because the days of just posting a booty picture and being like, give me $5,000 are over.
Yeah, definitely. No, we want to see you first off using our product before you even reach out to a company to get sponsored. You got to use their product. You got to
be a customer first.
Yeah. Because when I go and I look at your page or something like that, I don't see you to even follow us.
Right.
Like, why would you don't follow us? You don't use our products. Like, why are you even reaching out to us?
Right.
Like, oh, we love your product and this and that. But I was like, I never see you use it. So the key to get sponsored is buy their product, use their product, tag them. Because probably 95% of the time, if somebody messages me after they've already bought our product, use our product, post about it, and then they'll come up and they'll be like, we really like your product. We've been using it all the time. Like, can we join your team? And I'll look at it. I'm like, yeah, you use our products all the time. Like, that's easy. Yes, come join. But the other way around, where they're just like, basically it's probably a cut and paste message they send out to everybody.
Sure.
It's like, oh, I want to be sponsored this and that. I'm like, well, we just work off of ambassadors, where basically you just get a percentage of sales. It's like, we don't sponsor anybody because everybody's different. Everybody's following different. Like, everybody has a different price tag, kind of what they're worth.
Right.
So we just kind of do percentage of sales, but it's still like, you got to show interest in us before we show interest in you type deal. So where it's,
And because of your product, you're looking for somebody who has a more squared away business model for creating content. You're not looking for, you can't look. See, that's the thing that's changed the most. Is gone are the days of like, hey Ken, I have 20,000 followers. Give me X, Y, or Z. It's more about like what is the model to which you create. It's like when you come in here, you get a feel for it. There's no question when you leave the studio, you're gonna be like, okay, that's like a whole thing. It's not just coming in a microphone in my grandmother's basement. It's a whole thing. And you're kind of like, you understand it. You know what I mean? When people put content out there, you want to have that same feeling like, okay, I see what you're doing. Like we mentioned Jenna Geary, who I had on. She has a whole business, everything's built around that. She knows the models. She knows the codes. She knows how to post them. She knows how to share them. She knows how to incorporate the things into her workout. She has a system. Like, I suggest these supplements. I suggest this workout plan. Yep. I suggest these, workout, pieces of equipment. And that's the thing sometimes that's hard for people to understand. They want to be like, but Ken, I posted a picture, and you're like, yeah, and that's what's evolving like the last 2 or 3 years the most. Like, that's the flip. It's kind of, and you can tell right away by talking to someone in 5 minutes if they're dialed in like that.
Yep. They have people now want to relate to the people that they're seeing online, so they can look at it, relate to it, think, oh, I can do that exercise, or I can do this, and that will work a lot better than super pro athlete using it backstage, before they pump up.
Super pro athlete pumping up. And it's funny because people always think like, they'll think that, we go through this in the gun business. They think, you're so the ideal customer is like the pro shooter. I'm like, that's not even close. I'm like, they get everything for free anyway. They're the last customer on the totem pole you're marketing towards. You're trying to get all the time to the everyday person. I said this to a company one time because in the gun industry, and Rory knows this, everybody knows this, people all the time say, I want Navy SEALs to use this, or I want snipers. I'm like, do you know how many snipers there are? Like, you want to sell one gun, or do you want to sell 1,000 guns? Do you want to sell... You know what I mean? And that's the problem. It's like, yeah, I want to make these bands, and I don't have to tell you, like, but I want Phil Heath to use them. There's one Phil Heath. You have to make for everybody, and it has to be, you want to speak, you want to have stuff that the elite can use, but you want to speak mostly to that middle of the pyramid, everybody that can kind of use it. You don't want, of course, if someone's one step from a heart attack, bands ain't gonna save you. You need to walk, you need to do a whole bunch of other things, but you want to offer something that speaks to the masses. And that's, you see it so bad in our industry more than almost anything. Like, we're in an industry now where if there's a gun rights issue or there's something related to firearms or anything, they put a Navy SEAL on TV. It's never made sense to me. That's an end user. Yep. You would much rather see a mom speak about the product and say, I work from home. This is what makes sense to me. This is what resonates. And that's what makes sense. And I get that. Yeah. I get why.
It's the same thing. Like in the gun community, there's only, like you were saying, a few snipers or whatnot, but there's millions of hunters out there that are just go out on the weekends, and shoot every once in a while, and then go, deer hunting in the fall. Those are the people that are going to buy the guns by the millions and not the 10 or 15.
Or the collectors. Yeah. And that's a market too. But it's, people have a hard time getting that. And for whatever reason, sometimes it becomes a thing. And you see this in fitness too, like, oh, that's not for me, or that's he's making that for everyone. Well, no shit, I'm making that for like, no kidding. So did Glock. So did I'm like, and they turned out okay. But it's a hard thing. Marketing and developing a marketing strategy and having people understand where you're trying to go is the hardest thing sometimes, because they want to fit their vision into your company.
Yeah, especially when you're selling like a product like ours where it doesn't cost a whole lot. Like, it only costs like $10 to $30 for a product. So like, your margins are very small to begin with. So your marketing dollars have to go to the masses, because your cost per customer, you're looking at that when you start doing marketing, cost per click, cost per customer, cost per acquisition, is got to be really small, like $3, $4, $5. If it's more than $5, you got to like turn that ad off or do something different, because you're going to start losing money. So you have to go to the masses and kind of split up a little bit. Otherwise, that's why like your competition guns are probably so expensive, like over
highly
$5,000,
specialized. Yeah.
But you can spend a lot more money trying to reach those little people and spend, it might be $200, $300, $400 cost per customer to get that gun into that person's hands. Whereas if I were to, if it would take me $200-$300 to get a band in somebody's hand, like I'm negative hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
You're out of business.
Yeah. So basically you have to look that up between, all right, we can make a really specialty band, but it's only going to go to a certain amount of people that can use it. So we're going to have to put that price way up there so we can spend that marketing dollars to reach that small group of people.
Because of the COVID obviously exacerbates this, which is why I asked the question. We talked about it a little bit before. Are shows dying?
Shows...
Because the internet's become so robust. I mean, I asked you the question before. If you could design a funnel that could make you, if it costs you $20,000 to go to the Arnold versus a $20,000 funnel that can make you all your money back plus, is the Arnold a better investment or is the funnel?
I would they both have their positives and negatives. So it kind of depends also what stage you are in your company and how big it is. If you're a new company, and it would probably be better then to go to the Arnold because people can see you for the first time. They can grab your product, touch your product, and feel it.
Taste it.
Yeah, and all that stuff. And then, you can hit them up with the ads after that. But so if they've already been to the Arnold, they've already seen your product, they know you, then the ads are going to do a lot better. And you don't have to go to as many of those shows anymore. So the shows were doing good, and now there's so many more shows compared to what they used to be. There's so many more LA Fits. There's so many more Europas. There's so many more FitCons. Like everybody kind of saw that they can make $1 there, and that these shows are doing really good. So they're going to do a show, and they're going to do a show. So instead of it only being like 3 or 4 or 5 a year that you would go to, now we're doing like 30 or 40 shows a year, and now we're going way back because it's not really worth it anymore to do all those little shows and stuff. Now it's just, like you said, the advertising's getting a lot better now. You can hit your target market better. So just scale back, do a couple of big shows, get your names out there again, show off your new product, get some marketing. And now, like I said, we're going to try to approach shows differently compared to what we used to do. We used to go to just try to sell and make money, but the whole logistics behind doing a show is ridiculous. People don't really think about that. It costs like thousands of dollars for a booth. Now you got to get there, you got to travel, you got hotels, you got to pay athletes, especially like the Arnold where it's in the middle of nowhere. Like you got to fly in 6-7 people, you got to Airbnb houses or get multiple hotels. Like it costs a lot of money. So you got to not only make your money or try to make some money at the show. Now we're going to try to change it up a little bit and gather more customer data from the shows. So we're going to try to change it up, gather more emails, gather more, phone numbers so we can follow up market to them
pedigree
later
info.
on.
Yeah.
So instead of hopefully trying to break even at a show, now we can hopefully, market them later on down the line, 2 months down the road, 3 months down the road. We can send them an email or a text message saying, thank you. It was really great meeting you at the Arnold. Like, here's a discount code. Let us know if you have any questions, blah, blah, blah type deal to where you might get a better return on investment because shows are like hit or miss if you're going to make money or lose money type deal. So. Well,
most of the time, maybe with the exception, most of the time you lose. And I say, and I throw it in air quotes because no disrespect to the show people out there that love shows. You're losing in the sense that if you were to ask any executive, what's my return on investment, which is the ROI conversation I hate. As a CEO, I hated having that conversation because to me, I used to always say your ROI is 0 if you look at it that way.
Yep.
You have to look at it as, like you said, if you're in the early stages, in the infancy of a business, you have to get people to feel it, touch it, taste it, get their hands on it. There's something to be said about that. So if you threw $100,000 into a fire over the course of a year doing every show, but you got it in a lot of people's hands and that translated into some sales, then it is a victory. There is real return there. And there's benefit. Now you start coupling that with the pedigree information and everything else, and it pays dividends down the line. Now selling at a show, A home run is you break even. I mean, a fucking home run is soup to nuts. Arnold cost me $5,000 or $10,000. I sold $10,000 worth of bands, which that isn't even breaking even. You know that.
3,
that's negative.
4,
yeah, that's negative 3,000 for the. But you walk away saying we did all right. Like we came out okay, and that to me is what I put in air quotes breaking even at a show. I gross spent this. I gross gained that. I can walk away feeling okay about this. Some companies, as you know, go to these shows, these t-shirt vendors that like they're just trying to sell t-shirts. Some of them get soaked. I've talked to a few of them. I mean, they go and they're like, oh, it was a total bust for me. And I'm like, well, did you gather the pedigree information? Like, did you know what I mean? Are you building it out? And nobody's perfect in the beginning. It takes a lot of time to develop that mentality of understanding what the sale I don't get today, because it's always a third. 1,000 people walk by your booth, just throwing a generic number. You might sell 300 of them, $29.95 package or something. Another third is going to look you up after, is going to be like that follow-up sale, but you have to have the structure for that.
Yeah, you gotta. So yeah, it's funny you said about the t-shirt companies. We've seen so many apparel companies out there that set up their booth, and my booth is constantly changing too over like 8 years. Like it's changed drastically. Like it looks way better now than what it did 8 years ago with the plastic banner.
With the piping.
Yeah. So biggest thing now is you got to bring energy to the shows. You can't just, I will see so many like t-shirt companies or legging companies that'll just, their athletes there or their workers there aren't energetic. They'll just be standing there waiting for people to walk up to the booth. And then they'll like complain like, oh, we didn't do that good in the show. Well, it's like, well, I watched you. You were sitting down the whole time. Like you got to get up. You got to stand up. You got to like bring people to your booth somehow. Like, do a show, do a raffle, like challenge people to a push-up contest or a pull-up contest. You got to get the people.
You got to earn the business.
Grab them.
You got to earn the business, and people don't want to do that.
Yeah. So basically, like when we try to bring girls out to a show, like it's so hard because I try to get locals because it's cheaper. They live at home. I don't got to fly them in, this and that. But it's hit or miss whether they're energetic enough to go out there and grab the people to bring them in. Or I can fly in people I've used before that I know aren't shy. They're going to grab people out of the crowd, have them throw on a band, do some squats and whatnot. And those are the people that are actually going to make you money at the end of the day. So even though they may cost an extra $1,000 to get them there, they're going to bring in 3, 4, or 5 times that in revenue because they're grabbing people out of the crowd. They're jumping up and down. They're screaming. They're bringing the energy to your booth. So having the appropriate workers or having the appropriate booth set up, and a lot of these big companies do that well, like Blackstone Labs or VPX. They have like 30, 40 cracked out girls jumping around on stage, like throwing bangs everywhere. They're bringing people in. They're seeing stuff. They got like wheels where they'll have giveaway T-shirts and this and that. Or you need to follow us on Instagram. We'll give you a free T-shirt. Or you got to bring people in and like get them involved with your booth because that's your target market there. So when you're doing a Facebook ad, you're kind of blindly throwing out your ad. You can kind of like, target it a little bit, but for the most part, probably 75% or 50%, it's blindly throwing it out there. You go to a fitness convention or you go to a gun convention, 100% of those people there are your target market. So for those 2 days or 3 days or 1 day that you're there, you got to be doing everything you can even think of to get as much of those people to your booth, see your brand, touch your brand, and then on a win on your section would be get that customer's information, get that person's information somehow so you can email them later on or text message them later on or give them a card so they come look at your website. So that's the good thing about doing a shows versus a funnel or Facebook thing is 100% of those people are your target market. It's up to you being the boss or the CEO to figure out how to design your booth, how to design your girls to get those customers to you and basically give them or have them give them your money.
And that's part of the mistake a lot of brands make, is even in the firearms business, is when you come to a booth, like there's not enough coaching on what's the brand journey. Like if you're sitting there, like I've done this, you sit there with your team and I would say to them, what is our brand? Like what's like walk me through it. And people don't do that. Like you're saying, like there's no understanding. Okay, someone's going to come up to you, they're going to say, tell me about the brand. Like, yes, you have to engage them or entertain them. After the engagement or entertaining, you have to have a brand journey. Like, you have to be able to, like I just watched you do it, take them through the product, show them the things, and make it fun, and be like, look, this is what we have here. This is what we have that might suit you. Oh, you mentioned that you like, bow hunting or whatever. This is how you can incorporate this, whatever it is. However it is, make it relatable. And then the goal is always, after you turn that customer, you turn them into a customer, they go, oh yeah, here's $20. You want to turn them into a client over the long term. And that's one of the things we're seeing going on with paywalls and what other things coming in is, how do we take these people from customer, okay, your customer Ken, to client Ken? And a client, the difference in the definition is a client buys more than one thing, a customer buys once.
Right. Yeah, it's very rarely you're going to make money off of the first time customer. Because where you're going to make your money off of is the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth time that they buy your product. Now you need to spend less money and time marketing them because they're already coming to you either organically or you already have their information. You send them an email, that's free. You send them a text message, it's like a penny. So you got to make that first experience, that first impression, worth it so that they come back later on. So you got to be healthy or not healthy. You got to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be,
well, you got to be healthy too with your product.
Healthy, yeah. Be happy, engage with them, get that first experience good, and then they'll come back to you after that.
Yeah, and there's a lot to be said, about evolving your product, because especially if it's something that, okay, I have sneakers. Like, imagine if you never needed sneakers again, then, well, you'd only need one pair forever. Now, we know that's not the case. They get dirty, they fall apart, they deteriorate. There's reasons for that. You have to keep evolving your SKUs to create what we used to refer to, even when I worked on the finance side, as sticky products. Something that's like, I have to have this. Like, if it breaks, I got to replace it, or I want to have more of these. Like a mortgage would be a very sticky product. People tend to, mortgages stick around for a little while. Checking accounts, savings accounts, they tend to stick around for a little while. They're sticky. You get a credit card, you have that for a while. So when you're building your business, you want your products to evolve with it, so that engagement stays in the brand. And that's where social media can become an asset, because you can keep them engaged and entertained. And that's why I see one of the pitfalls of Instagram, especially, for a long time, was the lack of audio and the lack of video. Now it's starting to come in more, and they're realizing the importance of it, because you want to engage with people like this. Ultimately, a picture works for a minute, maybe less. People don't stay on it that long. But an audio or a video or something that's engaging, that it gives someone information and gives them data, they're going to be like, wow, that's gonna stick with them. Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know. I learned 50 things with you. Like, if I videoed what you just explained before we started the show, I could have posted that up. I learned so much about how to use bands, things I could do with them. Just even when you were showing the knee strikes, everything. I mean, I know I'm a buffoon, but but it's true. Just putting that little bit of content out there puts people on that circle where they're gobbling information. I'm going to go purchase something, gobble, purchase. And it takes them on that ride, and they're learning more and more about the brand and the passion behind it. It's a hard thing.
Yeah, and it's free. Social media is free, which is basically why we like to use it the most, because it's free. It costs you absolutely nothing to put up an Instagram video or a picture or something along those lines. So.
Now, a marketing team would disagree with you. They would say, well, there's the time component, and it depends how you view your time. But you're right. Essentially your cost per click comes way down if your information's organic and it's something that people can consume and can chew up. Now, we've seen this enormous boom with COVID in fitness.
Yes.
Absurd. Is it sustainable?
Hopefully it sustains and people get this wake up that, like, wow, I need to be more healthy in case something like this pops up again, or just to live a healthier lifestyle, to fight off the common cold or the flu. Like, the healthier you are and the better you eat and work out and just keep your body in a good shape, like, the better you'll be if something like this happens again. Because, they say the studies or whatnot, but like, healthy individuals really aren't affected by this. They'll be down for maybe 2-3 days, but that's about it. It's the overweight people that are seeing the biggest, if they get COVID or whatnot. That
overweight, diabetic.
Yeah, that are going to be affected by it the most. So they see this like, oh, maybe I should get in shape more. Maybe I need to, stop going to Dunkin' Donuts as much and maybe eat a salad more.
Ooh, that hurt. That hurt. We eat pink box here, but I'm a New Englander, so Dunkin' Donuts coffee hits home to me. Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right that you hope that it's sustainable. Like you hope that a lot of people that all of a sudden were like, oh shit, COVID hit. I need to put like a whole gym in my house. I need to have bands. I need to have this. You hope that people stick with that, and you hope that people continue to live that lifestyle, which could spit out another boom on the back end, which it tends to be a second wave, like they say, a second wave of COVID. There tends to be a second wave of people that are like, I'm really back engaged in this. I'm back into this, and I want to participate. But time will tell. It's one of those things. But it definitely propped up the industry in many ways, and the industry really needed it, in my opinion, because it was kind of like floating out there in space. And people are going to the gym, but now, like you said, this puts a huge light on this now for people to be in condition, on point, dialed in, and not just be sitting at home on the couch eating potato chips.
Yeah, you got to get out there. You got to move around, stay healthy, get some fresh air. And, like, that's one of the biggest things I didn't like when they started closing, like, all the beaches and, like, the parks and stuff like that. I'm like, people need to be outside and exercising. Like, I shouldn't be closing that, but whatever.
Didn't make sense. But now, now there is a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Things are starting to slowly open up. We're seeing, something like 16 states have opened up now, and I believe a lot of them are starting to drop the mask mandates. And I think in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I think a lot of states are going to have to start to drop the mask mandate. I think that's coming because it's just people are sick of it, and people are at the point where it's like, enough with the fucking masks. But as the population gets 5, 10, 15% vaccinated, I think it's a foregone conclusion that'll come. But it really depends. It depends on a lot of things. It depends on how people come out of this. I mean, we're seeing diabetics having a lot of problems with this disease. Like you said, overweight people. We're seeing people with pre-existing heart conditions have a lot of problems, and those are all big warning signs. Have you thought to look at, like, I don't want to say marketing in that direction because that's probably a bad term, but looking at, like, saying, like, don't let this, I don't want to say, like, don't let this happen to you, right? Like, that's not the right way to put it. But how do you market to the COVID, the COVID crowd, as I like to say?
So, like, one of our main text lines that we've been using for the last year was just basically like, let's all stay fit and healthy, get these products, work out from at home, let's get through this together. Let's all stay, healthy, fit. We got like home gym kits and everything up online that we put together. Basically, like, it hit us like hard in the beginning. We sold out of almost everything. So we were kind of putting together whatever we could get our hands on, whatever bands, whatever sliders we could get, and make these little home workout kits. So that way people can still try to stay fit, try to stay healthy from at home without being able to go to the gym. So we have all these sorts of different products and workout kits that we put together, and they were constantly changing as we were sold out to get new stuff in. So that's kind of like our slogan that we kind of went with, was like, let's just all stay fit, let's all stay healthy. The
anti-COVID kit. Right? No, it's too much. You can't say stuff like, I get it, you can't say stuff like that. But in the end, as we come out of this, and that's the hope, and you start going back to shows and you start sitting with people, I think people are going to have a renewed respect, though, for training and at least taking time out of the day to do something.
Yeah.
Whether it's 10-minute walks, whether it's whatever, to do something. Now, you've been active in the veteran community. You're friends with a bunch of big veteran pages that I know. I won't name because I don't want you to get bombarded, unless you want to. I don't want you to get bombarded with repost requests or some bullshit. But you've been super active and supportive in the community, but quietly and respectfully. And that's something that I admire in you. You're not someone who's like, yeah, beat my chest, thank me for my service type guy. Why is that? Do you feel like the industry's there's too much of that going on, or you've always been humble about it and respectful about it? Where does that come from?
I don't know. Like, there's some people that put that out there a lot, like, oh, I'm a veteran of this and that. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of us. We've all done certain things. There's some people that go in and get shot at. I've never been shot at. I've just been on carriers floating in the middle of the ocean for months and months.
Sharks.
At a time. Yeah, sharks. So it's like, there's some rates where, you're a ranger and you get shot at, you might have more pride, but I don't know. I've just been more on the back end. Like, I had a good time when I was in, and then I got out, but I try to help out everybody as I can. That's why I'm involved, like, military muscle. I'm one of the owners there with Panda and stuff. We try to help out a lot of people there, but like, I don't like being in front of the limelight and talking and being in front of the camera. Like, most people don't even know that I own the XBands because I never put my face out there.
Right.
Except for a few, instructional YouTube videos and stuff like that. Or when I go to expos, I'm always behind the camera, like designing stuff and like helping out people behind the scenes. Like, I don't need the limelight. I don't need any of that. Like,
but I respect that about you. And I think it's a, listen, I think everybody should be proud, right, of anything that they've done. Doesn't matter.
yep.
I don't care if you coach a little league team, but you've always been one of those people that's like, this was this phase of my life. This is this phase of my life. And do you feel that that's been important to your growth and to becoming even a better business person, to being like, I'm not going to rely on this type of model? Well, like, some, we use the term and I asked you this because you brought up military muscle. Some people get too heavy into the bro vets thing, and it becomes like, well, what's your business? Like, because you're maturing as a businessman. I've seen it. I've watched it happen before my eyes. And you're like, well, you segment it. You're like, well, that was a part of my life. Now I'm here doing this. And do you feel that too many guys don't do that when they step out of service? Don't transition enough?
Yeah, the military has definitely gotten a lot better over the years, trying to prepare people for the outside world and send them to training and classes and have all these different programs out there now, to where there's even a bunch of loans and stuff you can get for businesses through the VA or through the Small Business Association that'll help out veterans and give them grants or give them loans to start a business. And there's a bunch of training too. When you get out, you can take different classes on how to start a business and stuff. But the biggest thing that the military would teach you is just basically that never quit attitude. You got to keep going. You got to keep going, keep pushing through no matter what it is. You're never going to have all the tools you need to succeed. Like, you got to bush fix some stuff sometimes. You just got to make it work and go through.
I love that term.
Yeah.
I use the term, we got to jerry rig it. We got to Mickey Mouse it.
Yeah, Jerry's got a bad name.
Yeah, we got to jerry rig it.
I feel bad for all the Jerrys.
All the Jerrys in the world. You gotta just make it happen. Now, where does it go from here? Because I saw this other thing. Where's my other thing? The gym buddy. Listen.
Yes.
I'm addicted to this thing. Listen, I'm going to hold it up.
All right.
This thing is a magnet. Okay? And I know you're going to laugh because I said it. This is a magnet.
It's crazy.
It's science. But this thing's amazing.
Yeah.
And when you told me about it, same thing. I was like, I think this is, I really think this is like a Shark Tank. This is a Shark Tank idea. I'm serious. Like, this is on that level. And you developed this.
Yep. Yeah, I designed it like 2-3 years ago as a little side project. So basically, we had like all these ambassadors and athletes that work for us, and they always complain like, oh, and even myself too. Like, I just go to the gym by myself for the most part. So like, oh, I don't have anybody to film me and this and that. Like, I can't. It's hard for me to make videos. I'm like, all right, like, let me think of something. I'll get back to you in a little bit. So I started playing around
and think of something.
And then I basically looked around on the internet, seeing what was out there, how I can make it better. And then I found this company, and we basically designed this double-sided magnet that was adjustable, so you can attach it to the gear, attach your phone to it, and then basically it will hold your phone there at whatever angle you want, and it'll record your workouts.
It's wizardry.
That's crazy science.
It is straight up. Listen, I'm a simple person. Okay.
Yeah, super simple, super easy.
Super simple. I push play or I push record. I'm a simple person. This is straight up wizardry. I'm serious.
Stick it to the gear, stick it to whatever, anything.
How you haven't ended up on Shark Tank, and if you do after this, I want credit.
Right,
but I'm telling you, I want to go at least. I'll buy the flights. If this, it's smart. It's just, and we were talking about this before. Sometimes just the simplest idea. Like, I looked at you guys, and they were making fun of me. They were hurting my feelings. but I said, think about it, guys. Somebody invented a straw.
Yeah, somebody invented everything. It's basically those little niches, basically all CEOs or business owners is seeing a problem and then coming up with a solution for that problem. There's millions of problems out there. You do it every day. Like, oh, I wish I would make something for this, or like, oh, I can't figure out how to do this. If you come up with a solution for that problem, start a business, make that product, do whatever, and then sell it. So, I mean, that's the biggest. All CEOs are just problem solvers.
And if you haven't checked out the Gym Buddy, go over to the XBands and check out the Gym Buddy, because I'm telling you, that's where you're selling it, right on there?
Yeah, it's either selling on our website, Jim Buddy's website, or mainly Amazon. They sell pretty good on Amazon.
Amazon's takes a big cut though. Don't
Amazon is it's a love-hate relationship with Amazon. Like it is.
It moves some weight though. That's the hard part.
It takes so much commission. It is ridiculous. But they move a lot of product, and you don't really have to deal with customer service. So we just send them like a pallet every couple months or whatnot, and they just deal with it. But yeah, they take a lot of your money.
So what about the military muscle thing? Where does that go? And what's your involvement with that?
Yeah, so basically I kind of bought into the company a couple years ago. So like me and Panda and stuff, this year has definitely hurt us a lot with COVID because the whole manufacturing side of the house kind of shut down and closed up. So it's hard for us to get any sort of materials to sell, but you still have those business expenses. So you don't have a product to sell. You still have those bills every month. Like we almost went out of business this month because like we couldn't sell anything.
Right.
Because people were hurting for money because they didn't have jobs. They were laid off. So those luxury items where they buy a new T-shirt every month or whatnot to support you, they had to cut back on those things. And our manufacturing like basically quit.
Dried up.
So like it was hard to do anything. So it was, but yeah. So that side of the warehouse, or that side of the company or military muscle, we try to help out as many veterans as we can. Like we go around to different expos, we meet people. We have a big community on Facebook and stuff where they can reach out to basically anybody, anytime. We can help them through any sort of bad feelings they may be having, or they can reach out to people like, hey, I'm in this city, this day. Does anybody want to meet up for like an iron therapy, we call it, and just meet up random veterans around the community to work out, or if you have any problems, you can basically reach out to anybody at any time and help them get through that.
Got to get you guys some funding, something.
Yeah, there's a bunch of. I mean, it's hard. We have one nonprofit organization we work with that we kind of donate to people whatever we can if they're in need of some stuff. So a lot of our profits from sales go over to the Military Muscle Foundation to help people if they need, something happens, they need emergency funds, they don't have it, they're going to be homeless or something like that. We can try to help them out, but.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely an insanely worthy cause. It's just, like you said, fleshing out a business model that it all makes sense and it's able to pay the bills every month. That's the hardest part. And you guys have survived. It's hard to hear that it was such a tough month because you guys have survived such the test of time because we saw 9 million veterans charities pop up and you guys were always kind of really thriving. There was always that presence at the shows, everything. And it's just hard to keep it going. It's one of those things that constantly needs fresh blood. It needs new people. It needs to be reinvigorated. So it'll be interesting to see how you guys pull it off. And shout out to Panda.
Yeah,
love that guy. Yeah, seriously. I mean, and it's always comforting. It's like one of those boots that, if you guys haven't been to a show, that when you do see these guys, whether it's Ken with the XBands or it's Military Muscle, when you see that booth at a show or at an event, you're just like breathe a sigh of relief, like, oh, there's the good guys finally, like, because everything's so corporate, but you like to see guys like them, kind of rise up and make something happen in the industry and make some waves and make some money too, because that's what it's about. So I'm excited for you from that standpoint. I think you've really taken hold of something that may have started as a hobby, but became a business.
Yep.
And where it goes from here will be interesting to see, but I think you're on to something.
Yeah,
I'm not into the working out, but I'm very high on the gym, buddy.
Yes. I mean, no one really knows what the future brings. And, a lot of CEOs of companies will build a company and sell it and start something else.
Nothing wrong with that.
And that's how they become rich and, have all those super cool private jets and everything else.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. Hey, you could get a phone call one day. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Hey, how do we source all this? And the key sometimes with some of those things is if you can transition it and sell it. You look at like what I had Dana White on recently. You look at what he did with the UFC and was still able to maintain an ownership stake and be the president of the company and still keep the shape of it. You look at like what Rogan did with the Spotify transition. I mean, we'll see how that plays out because of the content, but
yep.
Still maintain some of the integrity of what he was doing. That's what's really important. And you have a turnkey thing.
Yeah, if you ever want to get motivated, listen to definitely Dana White's story going through the 90s where it's basically just like wall after wall after wall after wall.
Yeah.
It took them, I don't know, like 10, 15 years before they actually became in the green instead of negative.
Oh yeah, I mean, there was a lot of struggles there, and I've been lucky enough to spend a few minutes with him. There was a lot of struggles there, and you know, and listen, his story has been written 100 times. When we did the podcast, we did it a little differently, but you know, hearing his story and knowing a little bit of that story and how that's played out, even here, getting it to I mean, they may have surpassed hockey. I mean, that's crazy. And I got a chance to walk around the facility the other day. It is fucking, I could tell you this, our industry, the firearms business and the fitness industry, should be very worried, because I see how they're doing media, and I'm seeing the separation, the pulling apart of the two industries, because we got to get our shit together, especially in fitness too, because I mean, the fact that like the main events and everything, they don't even like stream those, and like what the fuck? You could do that with a cell phone. I mean, it's insane to me, Ken. I'm blown away by it. I'm like, what? Like when they were trying to figure out like the Olympia solution.
Yeah.
I'm like, you could hold a cell phone up and stream the thing. I'm like, I'll stream it for you.
Yep.
It made no sense to me. Like the struggle bus there to like, what are we gonna do? You know?
Yeah. Look at the UFC. They bought an island, and like we're gonna do this no matter what. Like, you just got to have that can-do attitude and not take no for an answer. Like, somebody tells you no, that just means, all right, they don't want your money, you're gonna go somewhere else. Like, I'll find somebody else. I've been told no millions of times, like, oh, we can't make that, or we can't do that. I'm like, all right, you're not interested, I'm gonna go find somebody else who can do this for me. Like, if you just say no, you're just lazy, and I don't want to deal with you. Like, there's always like, well, if they say like, let me get back to you, let me work on something, then they can interest it and we can do it. But if you just say no, that's just like, all right, I'm gonna go somewhere else. Like, you don't. Any CEO has never took a no for an answer. They just, all right, I'm gonna go somewhere else. Like, we're gonna make this happen. If we got to buy our whole island, we're gonna make this happen. Like,
he had a legendary speech like that to his guys when COVID hit, and that's what makes him different. You know, he's definitely the type of guy that gets out in front of things. You know, he's like, we're going to figure this out. And like you said, sometimes you need a minute. You know, it's like, okay, let me get a weekend. Let me go to the drawing board on it. You don't always have all the answers. So, listen, man, this was awesome. It was way overdue. We actually just looked at the clock. We're about an hour and 10 minutes.
What?
Yeah, I know. It flies.
Like 10 minutes.
I know. I loved having you. I know you got a bunch of stops to make while you're here. It's you know, you've already taken a meeting. I love having you, and I appreciate you coming out. I mean that.
Thanks for having me. This studio is like, like, like the ultimate man shop in here. Is like ridiculous. Like,
it's something.
Guns and
just there's lightsabers.
Like,
there's
I don't even know where to look.
Midgets
like,
hanging from the ceiling. You know, you look too. Yeah, that's worse than the magnet. But listen. I really appreciate you coming out. I do. It means a lot. And I've been after you for a while. You've been on my radar to have out, and I appreciate it. I want to thank Ken. I want to thank the XBands. I want to thank the gym buddy.
Yes.
I'm serious. The magnet. It's amazing. And let everybody know where they can find you and how they can reach you and see the websites and everything.
Yeah, so our main website is thexbands.com or xbands.com. We have a whole bunch of home workout accessories on there, all different bands and workout kits and stuff. We have gym buddies on there and just a bunch of stuff to kind of keep you motivated and keep you working. If you can't go to the gym, if you're traveling or do whatever, we try to make it as easy as possible and not throw up a whole bunch of money. Like most of our workout kits are between like $30 and $100,
which is insanely cheap.
Yeah, which is like a set of dumbbells. You know, so it's like you can get a whole bunch of bands, some door attachments for like $50-$60 type deal.
And in social media.
Yeah, at the XBands on Instagram or XBands Training, at Military Muscle, at Gym Buddy. No, look us up.
The Gym Buddy just got a follower.
Mobile Gym Buddy.
I'm 100% in. I appreciate it. I want to thank the sponsors. Head over to www.johnbartoloshow.com. I want to thank Galotech, Rhino Metals, of course, Full Quartz and Firearms, Blackwater Ammunition, Pulsar. Thermals have come down in price, people. Go, yeah. Thermals used to be very pricey. Go check out Pulsar. I want to thank Right On Optics and everybody else that plays in the reel. Go to the website. Go check the links down below. All the sponsors. The show wouldn't be possible without them. I appreciate them. I appreciate the XBands, and I appreciate all you guys who are listening. Leave a review. I do a terrible job asking for reviews.
5 stars.
Yeah, 5 stars. Help me out if you give a listen. And go check out all Ken's websites. I'll put the links down below. All his companies. I appreciate all you guys. I appreciate everything.